Thank you, Brother Leslie, for the introduction. I've been here 2010 and 2011 consecutively before I moved to Canada. I've been to the temple, Vihara, three times. 2010, 2011 and 2018 for a brief visit. But 2010, 2011 they were like month and a half kind of visits. Yesterday was the Asal day, so we have another word, the full moon of July. Now, according to the Pali calendar, we call Jetto for the month of June. So June to July we call Jetto, and from July to August we call Asal. Right? So it goes that way. So 2 months in one row, right? So what does Asal mean? So that is a good question, right? Anybody knows the meaning of Asal? So we could say Asal also. Monsoon. Right? It is called as monsoon. Right? Now, Asal day was the day that the Shakyamuni Buddha delivered supposedly his first Dhamma talk, because we say that it was his first Dhamma talk based on one of the references that was given here. You can see that at the end here. According to Mahavagga 1.6, this was the Buddha's first discourse after his awakening. Right? But the scholars have some divergent ideas about this. If you look at Majjhima Nikaya's 26th Sutta, MN 26, which is called Ariya Pariyesana Sutta. I think probably you may have read this Sutta too. Majjhima Nikaya 26, if you can go here. Ariya Pariyesana. Check this translation. Now this Sutta is the earliest Pali evidence to the Buddha's autobiography. But it's funny enough, it has not given the Four Noble Truths. This is why, don't worry about the scholars, because you are studying from a faith-based background. I hope that you also want to rationalize. This Sutta talks about how the Shakyamuni Buddha, before he was known as Prince Siddhartha, ascetic Siddhartha, went on his search for King Kusala Gavesi, King Satya Gavesi. What is wholesome and what is the truth? That was his initial investigation, research topic. That is how he found the rest of the teachers, Alaraka, Muddaka, Buddha, even the 5 monks, 5 ascetics, right? The Sutta records that part, right? But it does not present the analysis of Four Noble Truths. So this is one question that they have. So don't worry about that. But it's just a scholarly remark. But if you go into Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta, this Sutta clearly says the abstract, the essence of the Shakyamuni Buddha's teaching. Let me ask you a very brief question. Is this a new teaching, or was this an old teaching and a rediscovery? This was a rediscovery. But in the Sutta, if you can scroll down, if you can go down, if you have ever read, I think yesterday the temple monks recited. You can go here. You could see a Pali word called here. Tanko pana idang dukkhang ariya satyang. So let's take the first noble truth. Parinyayanti me bhikkhave apuppi ananussudesu. Now this seems to be that whatever the dhammas that the Buddha presents here were unheard, but only to the level of the 5 ascetics. But it doesn't say this was a new teaching. The reason being that the Buddha says it is just as some people found a new city. There's another sutta somewhere in the Pitaka, Pali Canon, Nagara Sutta. Somebody is going to find a buried city. The city is buried, but later on, archaeologists or whoever, they're going to find out that there was a city that was buried, that was existed long time ago. It is the same thing that applies to the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta's main teaching, the Four Noble Truths. That was the teaching which was given by all the previous Samma Sambuddhas. Right? How many Samma Sambuddhas were there before the Shakyamuni Buddha? 27. Was it actually 27? Or was it a rough number? There can be 27 Samma Sambuddhas. Actually, there were many Samma Sambuddhas. So if somebody asks you, if you take the first Buddha, Tannankara Buddha, how did he receive his precise statement, Niyata Vyakarana, from which Buddha? You will be surprised and perplexed. There were Buddhas from which these Bodhisattvas dealt with. But for our easy reference, we only take 27 Buddhas, 28 Buddhas, including our Shakyamuni Buddha. So that is just a brief note about a glimpse of the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta. There are a lot to talk about. Alright, let me ask you. Yesterday was the Asala day, as I said to you, it was the month for July. And today, all the Upasampada monks who got invited yesterday by the devotees, they started their Vassa. Right? What were the other important events happened on this Asala day? Was it only the delivery of the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta? Let's get started from that point. What were the other important significant events happened on a Asala? Why do I say on a? Because we don't have particular permanent dates in Buddhism, not like other religions, right? Now, say for instance, in other religions, they have fixed dates. December 25th, Christmas Day, you can't change that, right? If you go look for such dates, they are very much fixed. Do we have a particular date for Vesak? No. That looks like that we abide by the impermanence. Do we have a particular date for Vassa? It goes here and there. And then do we have a particular date for other, even Katina, even other major events? No. It looks like that we are naturally used to accept the changes of the dates, which is a good thing. So that is why I said on an Asala poetry. What were the other events happened? Can you just give some thoughts about it? Buddha preached to his mother. What was that event? Before that, let's talk about that Prince Siddhartha was conceived in mother's womb on an Asala poetry. Interesting, huh? Conceived. You know that there was a story that a baby white elephant, circumambulated her and then entered into her. Right? And then what happened? Mahamaya Devi, Shakyamuni Buddha's mother, passed away in 7 days. To some people, this is really a sad thing. It is a sad thing. But do you think that Mahamaya Devi or Bodhisattva's mother passes away just because a Bodhisattva was born into her? How do we understand that? How do we understand that phenomenon? Is it just because the Bodhisattva was born into her that she has to pass away? Any thoughts? No rationalization, no thoughts? Or you have just accepted everything how the Dhamma books given to you? That is not Buddhism, right? That is not what I know from the text. So we have to rationalize. with saddha, right? Some people lose their saddha when they rationalize. They lacking their saddha sometimes when they too much rationalize. We have to keep it as a balance. Saddha part, panya part. Never ever lose those two sides. When some people do more onto saddha, they forget about dhamma side. When they do more about dhamma side, they forget about saddha side. So their practice becomes very hard. It's not soft. It has to be soft. We shouldn't struggle, according to the Buddha. That is what the sutta says. Atta kilamatana yoga, kama sukhalikana yoga. Thanks. Why Bodhisattva's mother passes away? It is not because of the Bodhisattva is going to be born there. It is said, before any Bodhisattva is going to be reborn as that Bodhisattva's final life, he normally checks 5 things. The first thing is the time, kala. Then the deepa, mean probably the continent. Of course, Jambudipa, which is a larger area, not even India. And Desha, the particular province or the state. And then Kaladipa Desha, Kula. Kula means a caste. Because in India, you can't even get over any caste even today. Right? And then Janani Ayu, not mother. Mother's age. That means he is to look at a precious great woman who is going to die in a 7 days of time. That is how he decides that now I am going to be reborn in her womb. So she is definitely going to die. Not because Bodhisattva is going to be born into her. Otherwise it is pretty bad, right? Somebody's happiness, world's happiness, universal's happiness, somebody's death. Alright? And it's also interesting. Bodhisattva comes from Tusita heaven, and mother passes away and going to be reborn in Tusita heaven. Right? That's interesting too. Right? This is one incident. The incident was not the death. Conceiving of Bodhisattva into Queen Mahamaya. Then of course Queen Mahamaya passed away and she was reborn in the heaven called Tusita. Then in one of the Vassa time, the Buddha thought, although I was nourished by my stepmother, Pajapati Devi, I still need to help my biological mother who was reborn in the Tusita heaven. So what he did was, it is said that he went to the Tavatinsa. He didn't go to Tusita. So Mother Deva came to Tavatinsa heaven. Right? That means Devas can travel between the other heavens. It depends. So then he preached, he said that he preached Abhidhamma to his mother for 3 months. And every day he preached some part of Abhidhamma. The Buddha, Shakyamuni Buddha, traveled to the human world, especially to the lake called Anotatta. And then explained all the Abhidhamma matters to Arahant Sariputta. So that is how Abhidhamma got a tradition of preservation through Sariputta, Arahant Sariputta. Even though it was added after Sutta and Vinaya. So, and it is also said that the Buddha descended from Tusita heaven after giving the Abhidhamma to mother, spending 3 months on a Asala day also. So, giving the delivery of the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta, and then conceiving of Bodhisattva into mother's womb, Mahamaya Devi's womb, and then the Buddha's descending from heaven Tusita into Sankassa. Where is Sankassa located nowadays? There are some argument. The Sankassa is supposed to be in Savatthi, right? It is in Savatthi. Some have different ideas. Are these only the events happen on Asal day? Asal means yesterday, kind of a poet day, full moon day. Prince Siddhartha's great renunciation. It's not like your renunciation from houses where you go outside out of the country, right? It's a great renunciation. Still, there are some other anti-ideas also, right? Why he left his wife on the day. But actually, it was a wrong history. If you look at Aryapariyesana Sutta, somewhere in this sutta, it was said he did not leave wife and the son on the same day. So you could see somewhere in this sutta that he left the palace by informing others. So others were really worried about his departure. So who added that part? Who said that he left without informing others? That was a wrong biography of the Buddha. You have to be very careful, especially some of the translations, not even translations, some of the people's books about Buddha's biography. What biography? On what source was the biography based, right? All right. That was Asala day. And then there was another very important event happened on this Asala day that was pretty much late in Sri Lankan history. That was, at the time in the 17th century, there was no Upasampada going on in Sri Lanka. So they almost had no Upasampada monks in Sri Lanka in 17th century, Kandyan period. So what happened was that there was a series of kings who came from South India, Nayakkar dynasty. So they were asking VOC, the greatest, I would say, the largest trade company, Dutch company, VOC, to find monks. So VOC was in a trouble in maritime things because they were actually in problems. They were having losses in their trade things. So they thought, we're not going to present Sri Lanka, we're not going to present Thailand. We present Kandy to Siam, modern Thailand. So they went to Thailand and then asked from the king, can you please give us some monks so we can bring them to Sri Lanka through ships. And then that is how monk called Upali went to Sri Lanka with other monks. So they re-established the Theravada Mahavihara tradition in Kandyan time under Saranankara, Sangaraja Saranankara. So it also happened, it is said, on a Asala full moon day. That's little enough, right? For the Asala day. Well, we are today going to start our Sutta study class. I think, as Brother Leslie told, there was a Sutta class probably 4-5 years ago. Probably longer than that. The Bhante Punaji had conducted all those events. So, as we starting this as a brand new Sutta study class, I want you to understand the sort of expectations through this class. So I want you to read the Sutta, especially to get familiar with the pronunciation part. I think all are really interested about that, right? Pronunciation part a little bit. Probably first 15 to 20 minutes, depending on the participants, we can ask them to read. So I can check the pronunciation. And then we will be looking at a certain section of the Sutta to, I would say, translate and then look at the contextual meaning. Alright, so let's then get into the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta. Okay, how was this Sutta given to 5 ascetics? Let's look at the history of this Sutta. What really happened? Shakyamuni Buddha, I would say, ascetic Siddhartha, attained Samma Sambuddhahood in Buddha Gaya, say Bodh Gaya. Where is Bodh Gaya located according to the Janapadas? Try to see Janapadas. Now, these are the names of ancient Mahajanapadas which were existed at the time of the Buddha. You can see here Kosala is important. Kosala was one of the very important republican states. Why is Kosala important? Why is it important? Kosala is the Mahajanapada where Savatthi was located. That means Kosala was very important at that time of the Buddha's history. And it is said that a lot of things with the Buddha's biography happened when he lived in the Kosala, state of Kosala. And then what about, now you can see, Bodh Gaya is not a part of Kosala. Bodh Gaya is a part of another state. Actually, Buddha was born in Kosala too. It's part of Nepal, and then he traveled to Magadha, a state called Magadha. And in Magadha you see Uruvela, the certain location called Uruvela, and he found a certain place called Senani village, right? From Kosala to then state of Magadha, and in Magadha he was associating an area called Uruvela and within a sub-village called Senani. But once he became the Buddha, as you know, he became the Buddha in Bodh Gaya, that means in the state of Magadha, where King Bimbisara was the king. And he spent 49 particular days at Bodh Gaya. What did he do in those 49 days? He spent 7 special weeks in there, right? So the first week he spent just by spending, near the Bodhi tree. And the second week was very important. He spent by looking at the Bodhi tree. The Bodhi tree was behind him, and then he came the other way, and he looked at the Bodhi tree for a week without blinking his eyes. Why did you do that? Just to show gratitude, right? I think that is the first lesson that we have to learn from the Buddha's life. I normally tell people, before you read suttas, learn the life of the Buddha. Actually, the sutta, this Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta is very much associated with the Buddha's life, so it's good. So we can cover the both sides. And then, so he spent 49 days. At the end of the last week, 7th week, he started thinking, now what I am going to do with what I achieved. It is said that he was getting hesitant about, reluctant to deliver, which is a little bit, difficult to understand from a normal person's point of view. Because if the Buddha knew what he wanted, and if he knew what he did over the course of samsara, why he was a little bit, stuck, even for short time. Probably he was waiting for an official invitation, right? So Brahma Sahampati showed up, and he said, Bhante, do not get deterred, dejected, discouraged. There are many people who are stuck with who are with a lot of raga, dosa, moha, so you could start. That is how he came to the idea that I now really want to give this Dhamma to someone or group of people. Then who came to his mind as the audience? As I told you at the beginning, those first teachers, Bhargava is one of the teachers, right? Not particularly mentioned by many. Bhargava, right? Write that for you. Bhargava is one of the teachers. And then Alara Kalaram, and then Uddakaram, Alara Kalam. And then Uddakaram Buddha. Who were they actually? They were teachers to him before he found out 5 ascetics. Actually, they were teachers in the sense of Samatha Bhavana. Right? As you know that Samatha Bhavana means that you suspend, withdraw yourself from 5 things. Kamachanda, Vyapada, Chidimitta, Uddhacca, Kucha, Vichikicca, temporary, it will come back again. At least for a short time. Right? That is why the Buddha said even Samatha Bhavana is good, but it is not, it is a plaster, band-aid. But at least for those folks who don't do any meditation, it's even good. Something is better than nothing. The Buddha said, no, we have to go further. After the 4th jhana, 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th jhana. Anyways, he learned not even the Samatha jhanas, but also higher jhanas of the higher jhanas after the 4 jhanas. We call them immaterial jhanas. They are not material jhanas. Right? You could look up them on Google. Immaterial jhanas. Akinchanyayatana, akasananchayatana, vinyananchayatana, nevasanya, nasanyayatana. So he was able to achieve the 7th jhana and 8th jhana, not the first 4. Out of the last 4, 7th and 8th jhanas. Then every teacher told him, you know what, you have achieved what I achieved, so let's share the audience, our students, and then let's keep starting the teaching. He said, that is not what I want. I want to continue my path of search. He said, thank you, politely declined, and then he continued his path. And then, that is why those teachers came to his mind. And then he found out they passed away a couple days ago, a few weeks ago, and they were not anymore. Right? And he thought about the 5 ascetics who told him something to practice. Who are they? Kondanya, Vappa, Bhaddiya, Mahanama, and Asaji. Can anybody trace one of them? Who are they? Kondanya. Who is Kondanya? Have you ever read few Brahmins who were called upon by King Suddhodana to come to the palace when Prince Siddhartha was born? And then actually it was for the naming ceremony. He didn't have a name by that time. And then asked those 8 Brahmins, can you give a name to him? At the same time, tell me the future of this child. And most of them told that if he stayed in the palace, he would be a Chakravarti. That means a high concept in Buddhism where there is a universal monarch. If he leaves the house, palace, he will become the Buddha. Samma Samma. But only one Brahmin, Kondanya, said that no, he would precisely be the Samma Samma. This is that Kondanya, not anyone else. A lot of people know this is the same Kondanya because that is why he wanted to help the Buddha, because he knew that he will be the Buddha, but didn't know in which means he will be the Buddha. That is why he said, you know what, you have to do a lot of painful sealers, Attakilamatana yogas. You have to practice Attakilamatana yoga to become the Buddha. The more you give pain to your body, the closer, the nearer you are into the Samma Sambuddha. Actually, the Buddha, ascetic Siddhartha thought, yes, you know. So it was a total failure for him, right, for 6 years. Other than the lessons that he learned. So don't worry about mistakes in your life, failures. Even this ascetic Siddhartha had that for 6 years. Although he learned out of it, you know. So you bounce back, can be resilient. And then he found out this is not the way. I have to find the middle path. The middle path is not indulge in some happiness and then do some more sila, pain to the body. Middle path is the practice of the noble eightfold path. Right? Arya Attangika Magga. That is how the idea of looking for the 5 ascetics came to his mind. And then what he did, he saw that they are now in the city of Benares, actually 6 miles away from Benares, a place called Isipatana, Migadaya. So Migadaya was a name given by a king, a previous king, where he declared open a place for a sanctuary for deers. So hunters cannot hunt any deer in that particular area. And not even that, this place is very special because most of the ascetics at that time and the Pacceka Buddhists, when they are making their way back from Himalayas, they land into this area called Migadaya. Isipatana. The rishis descend into that area. Even the Pacceka Buddhas, now nearby the Isipatana is a place called Gandhamadana, like Rocky Mountains or Alps. 7 mountains actually, Gandhamadana. So Pacceka Buddhas normally do their meditations in this Gandhamadana area, and then they go to the lake of Anotatta, and then they land into Isipatana. That is why Isipatana is very famous, and the Buddha says in one of his suttas that this is a avijahita thana. That means every Samma Sambuddha will deliver his first Dhamma talk at the Isipatana Migadayas. It is not even common to the Shakyamuni Buddha. Alright, so that is how the Buddha found them at Isipatana Migadaya. So he then started journeying to Isipatana. Right, it's a long way. So, and it's kind of interstate, interprovincial traveling from, I would say, so he was here. Kasi state called Kasi. Kasi was east, on the east side of Kasi, it was, I would say, Magadha. From the north of Kasi, it was Kosala state. So he was coming from Magadha, Bodh Gaya area to Kasi, Varanasi. You can see here, this area. So he traveled from the state called Magadha, somewhere from the Uruvela area, Bodh Gaya, into the state of Kasi. The Benares is located in the state of Kasi. Now you have to understand 3 states. What are they? Kosala, Magadha, Kasi. Kosala, Magadha, Kasi. Right? So, not from the modern way of identifying them, because Buddhas lived at that time. So we have to understand. He was born in the state of Kosala, and he did his ascetic practices, and he became the Buddha in the state of Magadha, and then he traveled to the state of Kasi. Once he finished his Dhamma talk, it is said that he traveled back to Uruvela, Magadha. Right? And then that was how the story unfolded. But what happened in his talk, when he went to the Migadayas, Isipatana's Migadaya, what happened? The 5 ascetics thought that he failed in his practice of becoming the Buddha. That's why he is coming after us. But when he was coming closer, because of the majesty of the Buddha, Shakyamuni Buddha, they could not help not respecting him, and I think you know that story. So one person went to bring a bucket of water, basket of water. One person was trying to set up a chair, kind of a place. So they were very respectful. They found out this our friend has changed into something, but we don't know what is that. we'll get him talk to us, but we don't know. But something is changed in his face, in his aura, and all that. So that is why now they were preparing, and then the Buddha started reciting the sutta. Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta. Now we have to identify a couple things here. Dhamma. Now this Pali word. Do we have a one word, one translation? I would say one meaning of Dhamma. Or is it contextualized? Does Dhamma, the Pali word Dhamma, have many meanings? If you say there are many meanings, can you give an educated guess about it?
One is the Buddha teaching is called Dhamma.
That means anybody's teaching can be called as Dhamma, the Dhamma of the Jesus Christ.
Dhamma means experience.
Yeah, that is another meaning. But let's go one by one. So one meaning of the word Dhamma is the teaching of any teacher, Dhamma of anybody, right? So how do we particularly understand that? If there is an uppercase D, that means teaching, like this. This is how we understand that it definitely refers to a teaching of somebody, Dhamma of so and so, right? All right, so say Dhamma, we could say Dhamma actually. Has anybody ever found out this term, Dhamma? That one, the first one, Dhamma. This one, Dhamma. Chakku, Sota, Gana, Jivha, Kaya, Mana. What are they? Sense faculties. Eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, mind. Then, what are the objects, sensual pleasures for those sense faculties? Rupa, Saddha, Rupa, Saddha, Gandha, Rasa, Pottabba. Then? Huh? Dhamma. That's the word. What does Dhamma mean there? Dhamma means experience?
Still means experience, mental experience.
Yes, it could be. And phenomena, experiences, yeah. So in brief words, we can say thoughts, mind and thoughts. Thoughts will become an experience later on, right? Basically, they are thoughts or phenomena. Or if you see the process, the process, it could be an experience because our thoughts getting processed under papancha. Then you, pardon me? What's that?
Natural law.
Yeah, that is another meaning. Natural law, right? Does it lowercase Dhamma or uppercase Dhamma? Lowercase Dhamma. Another idea is Dhamma. You could say Dhamma, right? We have Dhamma Niyama. Dhamma Niyama means natural laws, right? And Dhamma of life. What does it mean? The true nature of our life. Another meaning is true nature. What is the true nature of our life? We were reborn and we spend some time, we are getting age, and then we can be sick, we can get sick and we die. Does this happen to us just because my fault, or does this happen just because? That is the nature, true nature of my life, or probably the true nature of this universe. It is the true nature, right? And going back to the experience part, we have to talk about, if you really want to know the experience, then we have to go into the first stanza in the Dhammapada. If we want to look at Dhamma as experiences, which is a process, then we have to see the first and the second stanza. Let's take the first one. Mano Pubbam Gama Dhamma. How do we find out the meaning here? Mano Pubbam Gama Dhamma. That means all experiences are made out of the mind. How do we understand those experiences? Experiences are basically sanya and vedana, perceptions and feelings. Because when you go through a feeling, then you start making a note about that experience, that particular feeling, about used in the past and for the future. I went to this restaurant yesterday, and then the food was delicious and I like it. Now I make a note for the past to have a reference for the future. Sanya, right? So it came out of the feeling. So that context means experience. In Buddhism, experiences are not just handmade ones. They are made of sanya and Vedana. Alright? So, in this way, Dhamma has a lot of meaning. So, we have to correctly understand the particular meaning of the Dhamma. And if you can remember, in the Satipatthana Sutta, there's a certain Satipatthana, I would say the last Satipatthana, which goes by Dhammanupassana. Kayanupassana is the first one, then Vedananupassana, then Chittanupassana, third, fourth, Dhammanupassana. Dhammanupassana means mental properties. Because you started off with normal body-based exercises. All these are exercises. And then looking at yourself, looking at other people. A lot of people don't know about this thing. When they start practicing Satipatthana, they only think, it's my Satipatthana. And I did it well. And they sort of like develop a Sakkaya Ditthi without their knowledge. Because they don't know the second part of each exercise. The Buddha said, let's take Anapanasati. When you start practicing Anapanasati in the correct way, and then the second part of that meditation is Satipatthana, is that you also need to look at how other people breathe in and out. Why is it? Then you understand that breathing process is a universal thing. You are not only focused about you. Right? That is a fundamental criticism about the Theravada people. They only think about them. Because their only wish is to become an Arahant. It is not. It is how people do it. Maybe wrongly misguided. The Buddha said properly that this practice will become selfless at a certain point. From being selfish into selfless. So both natures have to be understood. Alright, so in this way, Dhamma is a very contextual word. Chakka, this part? Chakka. Chakka means wheel. How do we find a wheel in the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta? Is there a wheel? How do we understand it? Now in the latter part of the Sutta, you may see that there is something going from one realm to other realm. Right? What is it? What is it? That goes from one realm to the other realm. Saddha manussave sum. Some people chant it. Saddha. Some translate this to be a sound, maybe a cry, maybe a sort of a voice, maybe an exclamation kind of thing. Anyway, kind of a cry, kind of a sound that travel from the lower level of the realms into the higher level, starting from the Bhumma Deva. Who are they? Bhumma Deva. I'm not going to detail everything, but I just want to give you kind of an idea. Devas who are living in the human world. They are lower than the aerial Devas. Aerial Devas are lower than the Chatu Maharajika Devas. That is how we take it. There are different types of Devas. And Devas in your houses, we call them tree spirits. Rukha Devas, they are the lowest. And the Bhumma Devas actually. So from Bhumma Devas up until the Akanita, the highest Deva, the cry went from one realm into the other realm. That means this, it is not a cry actually, this proclamation of the Four Noble Truths in the ways of Parinyayang, Pahatabbang, Satchikatabbang, Bhavetabbang. These are the four things the Buddha says. Parinyayang, I have fully perceived. Pahatabbang, I have fully eradicated whatever the things that I had to. And I have fully realized. Satchikatabbang, I have fully developed. So when the Buddha made this huge proclamation, it became a thorough sound, and then the Deva realms could not help not taking that sound all the way from the bottom. And this sound cannot be conducted by any Brahmin, any Brahma, any Deva, even by any Mara. That means there are a lot of Maras, right? Where are the Maras living in the Buddhist realms? Mara? There are two heavens which we suppose to understand Mara's living. Nimmana Rati and Paranimita Vasavati. Normally it is said that those people who offer dana by expecting a lot of things for the future will be reborn there. Then somebody asked me a question, how to become a Mara? Should be a very good thing, right? So you have to be in the, because those Maras live in the highest heavens. Not like a normal Deva, like Sakha, they living in a lower level of. It is said that when you expect more for the future, actually it is Bhavatanmaya, it's a kind of craving, you will be reborn in the Maras, one of the two heavens. When you are reborn there, can you work independently or you have to abide by the regulations of the bigger Mara, higher Mara? You have to go through the commands of the Vasavati Mara. That is not good, right? So anyways, the sound went up to the Akanitta, they all accepted. This sound cannot be stopped. It came from the bottom and they all looked at it. It was the proclamation by one Samma Sambuddha about the noble truths that were buried down, just like a city was buried down long time ago. He found out, he rediscovered the truth. That was how the flow of the sutta goes. But today we will be reading and discussing, I would say, the first part of the sutta a little bit. So chakra is a wheel. The wheel, the idea of wheel comes because the proclamation went like a wheel onto other realms. That is why we take it as a wheel. Dhammacakka. Ever since, especially from the time of Ashoka, different people started designing Dhammacakka. Right? Normally, this Dhammacakka is supposed to have 12 spokes. There's 12, what do you call, Dwadasakara. But in some people's Dhammacakka, spokes came out. Maybe a wrong design. It can't be a wheel, it can't actually turn then, right? You can't set the wheel of Dhamma in motion at that point. So a true Dhamma wheel should have spokes within the wheel. They should not come out. Right? Not to disrespect anybody, but anyways, that is what we understand. Yes.
Another explanation of this Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta, which I'm not sure is true. They say the chakra means the shape of a wheel. It's not a wheel, it's the shape of a wheel. Actually, it's a weapon. In India, I think there are those wheels, the very short weapon. So coming to a wheel basically is to destroy the devourer. So I'm not sure what this explanation is. Talking about a shield, not the wheel that can destroy the people.
Yeah, no, I'm talking from the sutta itself, not the interpretations.
That one came from the commentaries.
Everybody, yes. I'm talking from the sutta itself. The sutta, you see, pavattana. So how do we set the wheel in motion? Then we understand it is because you can see at the end of the sutta, appativattiyan. So now the wheel cannot be turned by anybody in those places. Because the Buddha clearly mentioned about the Four Noble Truths, and the message can be now passed into all the realms. Actually, there is another idea from Indian philosophies that when a new idea has kicked in, there is this wheel, Dhammacakka concept is normally used. But according to the Sutta itself, it says that here the wheel has to be understood by looking at how the message was gone into other realms. That is initially what we understand, not from the commentaries actually at that point, interpretations. Yes? No, it only represents the Four Noble Truths. Yes, but later on people use Dhammacakka for Patissamuppada, Sansara, Because we normally say sansara chakra, they are interpretations. I mean, they are not bad, they are okay, but in this context, it is the Four Noble Truths, 12 aspects. Let me show you. I can show you that. Okay, so you can see the 12 12 aspects. How the Buddha understood the noble truth of dukkha, dukkha samudaya satcha, dukkha nirodha satcha, dukkha nirodha gamini satcha, right? And then there are 12 ways. So he understood the first truth by ways of satcha jnana, kiccha jnana, kata jnana. That means he had the knowledge, he fully understood, and then he has to understand a certain level of that jnana, I would say the first truth, and then he understood that, he fully understood. In the same way, these three perspectives were applied to all the four noble truths. Then, if you take the 12 aspects at the 12 spokes of a wheel, then we can understand the nature of the wheel here. That thing we understand from the sutta itself. You can see this slides from here by clicking on the link over there, I think. Yes, so you can click on this. It will take you to the flyer there. All right. So now let's do the reading part. But before that, any questions about the background of the sutta? Yes, please.
Sorry, I'm actually new to the Sutta. But based on what you have said just now, I still believe that in the next Buddha comes, whatever teaching that is in place now will also be very rediscovered
By the future Buddha. Yes. And what happened at the end of the sutta is that only one ascetic was able to attain Sotapanna. That means it didn't work for the other four. Right? It did not work for the Vappa, Bhattya, Mahana, Masaji. Didn't help them. Then the Buddha had to give another sutta, whereby all five became enlightened, became arahants. What was that sutta? Anattalakkana Sutta. Right? That sutta also appears in the Samyutta Nikaya. I think it's the Samyutta Nikaya's it's 22.59 Sutta, Anattalakkana Sutta. All right. Any more questions about the background of the sutta? Yes.
For someone who wants to have a familiarization with different how to approach the literature, be able to have a diagram, a simplified diagram to show the hierarchy of literatures in the community. I mean, for example, like the suttas, how does one read from one sutta to another?
Well, I will be giving the names of the suttas. I'm not trying to complicate this sutta study a lot, because there are a lot of things. I don't think that you have to learn all that, because not too much knowledge. But I will give you the most important one. Like today I said Anattalakkana Sutta. And you know that 5 ascetics became enlightened because of that sutta. Because this is an issue. When we do a sutta study, it's a factory of information. So on one side we have to look at the literature, at the same time we have to find out the practical side of the sutta with the pronunciation. All right, looks like there may be no questions at this point, so I may ask, probably we can make a group, right? Probably, maybe the rows. This row, There are 4 rows over here to read. The first, we have 1, 2, 3. Yeah? Okay, maybe they can read the 3 sections. Maybe this row. Can you read from 1 to 3? All right. So how did you pronounce this part? This one? Not Panchavajji, Panchavaggi. See, one place. Panchavaggi. All right. And then when you pronounce Pali, take your time. Don't try to read like experts. We still need to take some time, because the slower you become better, right? And then keep this in mind. When there's an H, you have to make an aspirate. What does it mean? Ekang Samayang, not Bhagava, Bhagava. Then again you can see Tatra Ko, not Ko. Again Bhagava. Then not Bhikkhu, Bhikkhu. Again you can see that. And finally you would see again Bhikkhave. So this row, please. Yeah, great. So the only thing was that the H part. I mean, you have to make a what do you call an emphasis, not Bhagava. As I said earlier, Ekang Samayang Bhagava. Now let me read one more time. Ekang Samayang Bhagava Varanasiyang Viharati Isipatani Migadai Tatra Ko Bhagava Panchavaggi Bhikkhu Amantesi Atha Ko Bhagava Panchavaggi Bhikkhu Amantesi Dve me Bhikkhave Anta Pabbajitena Na Sevitamma. Alright, maybe this row all together. Good. And the final row.
Ekam samayam bhagava varanasiyam viharati isvadani vidhari atako bhagava panchavati bhikkhu amantesi atako bhagava panchavati bhikkhu amantesi
All right, so I think you might perhaps read the place of pronunciation in Pali. That would be a good lesson for all of you. Probably there may be an article. In Pali, we have to know that there are some letters, consonants, especially consonants and consonants, they have to be pronounced from certain places. Now, probably we will do that next Monday. So then you will know that why it has to be emphasized, right? And all right. So now let's go to words here. See how it works. Ekang. What is ekang in Pali? Ekang means once upon a time. Was it a story? Ekang samaya. Now, is this the Buddha's words? This is not the Buddha's word. This is the words of the senior monks who did the first council, right? Especially words of Arhan Mahakashyapa's group. Because you know, Digha Nikaya, the first Sutta Pitaka has a couple of Nikayas, 5. The first Nikaya, Digha Nikaya, was preserved by Bhante Ananda and his monks, his disciples. And Majjhima Nikaya by Arhan Sariputta and his group. And Sangyutta Nikaya by Arhan Mahakashyapa and his group. And Anguttara Nikaya by Arhan Anuruddha and his group. And Khuddaka Nikaya by everybody. Right? That is how it was preserved. There were things that changed the course, but that was how originally planned the preservation. So now, because this comes in the Arhan Mahakasyapa's Sanghya Nikaya, definitely this must have been narrated by Arhan Mahakashyapa or somebody else in that group. So Ekam, okay, well then you can see that the number 3 is the place where Buddha starts, the top, the sutta. Dveme bhikkhave anta pabbajite nasina. Now Buddha addresses the monks. Do not practice to extreme ends if you really want to attain Nibbana. So before that, they were not the Buddha's words. I mean, we generally regard that all these are Buddha's words. They are good, but not originally from the Buddha's mouth. Like the Mahaparinibbana Sutta. Now Buddha passes away, but the Sutta continues. How it happens? The Buddha passed away. Now it's about the Buddha's funeral. Now everything what happened with the deliverance, distributions of his relics, and it is said that Buddha had said that every Buddhist has to go to 4 places. They were all coming after the Buddha's passing away. How it happened? Right? Now, don't think that they were not Buddha's words. I mean, Buddha couldn't have told like that, you know. They were senior Sangha's words because they thought there were some irregular areas, so they had to fix them. But they can still be taken as the Buddha's words because there is no issue. Alright, so Ekang Samayang means once, I would say, or on one time. Bhagava, that's a good one. Bhagava. What does Bhagava mean? Those are the very simple translations. Blessed one, lucky one. Some people say. Huh? What was that? Awakened one. And then blessed one. Yeah, but what does Bhagava mean? We had to go to the Itipiso statement. What does it mean? Itipiso Bhagava Arahan Samma Sambuddho Vijjacharana Sampanno Sugato Lokavidu Anuttaro Purisa Dhammasarati Sattadeva Manusana Buddha Bhagavati. That one, that part. Yeah, those are just simple translations. That doesn't carry the weight of what does Bhagava mean. Bhagava means Bhagga Raga, Bhagga Dosa, Bhagga Moha. The person who fully uprooted Raga, Dosa and Moha. That is why he is called Bhagava. Now, does that blessed one have that meaning? No, that is just a literal translation. See the difference between the literal translation and the contextual translation. I always tell people, don't try to read suttas without a proper teacher. That's very dangerous. One day we will be studying a sutta called Alagadupam. The Buddha says by himself, if you study Dhamma wrongly, it is just as you try to catch a snake from its head. Dhamma will bite you. You never thought about it, huh? Yes, it happens. Because you feed the wrong knowledge here and you think you know it. Right? Now recently somebody asked me, this gentleman or lady participated in the sutta discussion. Anatha Pindikovada Sutta. The sutta which was given to the Anatha Pindika just before he passed away. And now the gentleman asking me, should I practice the same thing when I die? I said, what? And then I was informed that when I die, if I die naturally, then I will really have pain in this place, that place, in different parts of my body, right? The sutta says, Arhan Sariputta came over to the Anathapindika's house. When Anathapindika said, Bhante, I cannot tolerate my pain, right? But Anathapindika was already a Sotapanna, right? And then Arhan Sariputta said to him, Anathapindika, this pain is not yours. This pain comes from the aggregates, Panchakkanta. Do not think it's yours. Because Anathapindika was a Sotapanna, he was able to understand it. The person who gave that discussion said, this is the thing that we all have to do when we die. The person who conducted the discussion said, this is how you have to die. Now, how is this going to work for a normal person? Very dangerous. Because Anathapindika was a Sotapanna. Actually, Anathapindika said to the Arhan Sariputta, Bhante, I have been offering a lot of things to the Buddha. I have offered this Jetavanarama by offering 54 crores. Right? That means 1 crore is equal to 10 million in today's currency. Just do your maths. See how much he spent. And I've been going to the temple every day. But Buddha never taught me this before. He said, not even other very educated Sangha I know. I know all these Sangha. I personally supported him, but you are the only one who taught me this today. Because Arhan Sariputta knew, now the time has come, he's going to die, he has this ability, he knew it and he did it. Now the danger is that if somebody just reads here and there and then think about this is how I am going to do when I die. So, have to be very careful. So, do your sutta reading from whoever monk who has a thorough reading about the suttas, to cross-check the suttas, not just from one sutta, because these suttas are contextual. Alright? So, Bhagava, the literal meaning is the blessed one. You won't be able to say someone who uprooted Raga Dosa Moha, it is too long. But you have to understand Bhagava means someone who has uprooted Raga Dosa Moha or Loba Dosa Moha. Greed, hatred and delusion. Varanasiyam. Varanasiyam means Benares, the city called Benares. Where is it located? In which city? In which state? State of Kasi. Viharati Isipatane. Isipatane, Isi means ascetics. Patana means falling. Ascetics fall down, descend into that particular place. Are they normal ascetics? No, they are those ascetics who had already attained jhanas. So they normally go to Himalayas, to Gandhamadana mountain area, and they practice, and on their way back, they are landing into Isipatana. So it was not even the Buddha's place, it is a very sacred place. Even all the Buddhas, Samma Sambuddhas do their first Dhamma talk in this place. Migadai, as I told you, is the sanctuary for the deers. No deer should be killed in that premise. Tatra ko, now there he, Bhagava, then again, Pancha Vaggi. Pancha means 5. Vagye means group. Bhikkhu, monks. Amantesi, address. Then again the same words. Atthako, then the Bhagavan, the Buddha. There is something that we have to note. Now, you don't see Buddha in the canon more than Bhagavan. Why is it? You see another Pali word called Tathagata. And normally Tathagata and Bhagava are the mostly used terms in the canon. Because Buddha is a common name for everybody. Now you might think, am I also Buddha? No, for every Arahant. Every Arahant is a Buddha. How do we understand that? Samma Sambuddha, fully enlightened or fully awakened Buddhas. Then Pacceka Buddha, those Buddhas who attain Buddhahood but cannot deliver. This happens for some people. They are very educated people but can't deliver a talk. They don't know how to talk. Right? Speaking is better because the Buddha said people attain Sotapanna by listening to a Dhamma talk, not by reading the Dhamma talk. Because at that time of the Buddha's journey, a lot of people attain Sotapanna by listening to a Dhamma talk because they were able to integrate what is being said into his or her private practice. Because this is a private journey in the end, right? And then Samma Sambuddha, then Pacceka Buddha, then Arahanta Buddha. Savaka Buddha, that is another one. Savaka Buddha generally means the major disciples of the Buddha. Generally the 8, there is a particular number for some major disciples, 80. And then Chatusacca Buddha, all the general Arahants. That is why the word called Tathagata or Bhagava were mostly used in the Pali canon. It's only for the Samma Samma. Bhikkhu Amantesi. Now the Buddha speaks. Dve means two. And I tell you that there are two Anta. Anta means extremes. They are extremes. Pabbajitena nasevita. Now, please understand this. Now then, that means Dhammacakka Sutta's main teaching is specifically for the Pabbajitena monks. Right? It's not given for the lay people here, right? Pabbajitena nasevita. But now you might think that there are many other suttas where you learn too. But as a lay person, you may have to experience some karma. Right? And then you may have to experience some sila too. But for monks, they should not practice two ends. That means you should not go to the end of pleasures and to the end of the sila. We will be doing that part in our next session. Alright, this is what we have to understand from this section today. Any questions before we go to the transference of merits?
Number 3 here, these are two extremes. Isn't there something missing? It means that those who have gone forth should not be practicing. It is not mentioned there. Because if I compare it with other translations, that particular section there, it mentioned these are the two extremes that should not be practiced by one who has gone forth.
Yeah.
There is no indication about not practicing those extremes.
Yes. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. But this is understood actually. You can understand that there are two extremes that one who has gone should not be practiced.
It's not mentioned. Not practiced is not mentioned.
Yes. Yeah. That has to be added. Yes.
Yeah.
Nasevitabba means
Missing.
yes. Nasevitabba means that you should actually it is an added thing. You can understand definitely that two extremes, that there are two extremes that no monk or nun should be practiced.
Why did the Buddha impose this rule?
Why did the Buddha? Yeah, because Panchavaggiya Bhikkhu were residing in the state of Kasi, in this place.
So if he believes that it will be easier to reach out to someone who has already gone through a certain journey. So that was why he was looking for somebody who is in that journey, seeking the truth.
Yeah. Yeah, one thing is that he knew that they were also looking for the Nibbana. And the other thing is that it was because of the gratitude that he wanted to give. Because he was helped by them before. That was the main thing that he wanted to go to Kasi. Yeah. Any other questions? Yeah.
Monks here. At that point in time, there were very no monks, there were no ascetics anymore. Guys, but who have left the home, homeless, but they were not as ordained as what we believe now as monks. But were they referring to ascetics? It's like
Yeah, because Pabbajita at that time means, I would say, those who have left the house. Left the house. Yeah, but in today's context, definitely, yeah. So it depends on the time actually. But we have to understand from the today's context. So definitely those ordained monks. Yes. Yeah. Because he was addressing the Panchavaggiya Bhikkhu, they were not formal monks. Yeah. Well, they attained Nibbana actually, so that was their ordination. So there was no formal ordination for them.
at this point in time, I don't know what level was it. Getting yet.
No, he attained Sutta Wan. The rest of the ascetics were not attained anything.
Before listening to the Sutta or after?
After, at the end. They all attained Arahanthood after they listened to the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta. Alright, any questions? We'll take another 1 minute or 2 minutes.
Well, in this case, with the number one, we should be then he addressed the group of 5 very introducible monks, right? Because at that time, what I understand is during the Buddha, as I said, Buddha get awakened, enlightened, now they approach his friend going to preach for this. At that time, they don't call monks, right? All those practice in India, they're supposed to be ascetics.
Well, don't get caught off some of the words. Rather, we have to get the idea here. The idea is that we know that there was a formal establishment of the Sangha order, Bhikkhu order by the Buddha, and these first ascetics, after they listened to the talk, they started following what the Buddha said, so they can be recognized as monks, definitely, right? And we are not taking what they had before that time, right? So it is clearly said Bhikkhu, Panchavaggiya Bhikkhu, right? Yes, so better to take as monks. Actually, Bhikkhu is not monk, because that is the word that we use. Monk is coming from Christianity. So Bhikkhu means Bhikkhu. Like Kamma is comes, you can't translate it, right? Yes. So you have to understand the bigger meaning of the sutta. Don't get caught in some of the words unless there is something to learn. Okay? Unless there is something to learn contextually, don't get caught in words. Otherwise you will get stuck. You will won't be able to understand the bigger meaning of the sutta. Alright, so it seems there are no questions. So, and plus the first day after the discussion, we will be doing, I would say, Kama Sukha Likkhana Yoga next Monday, looking at Kama Sukha Likkhana Yoga from its own context. So let's transfer all the good karmas to the departed relatives. May all the good karmas that we've been accumulating in today's Sutta discussion be transferred to all the departed relatives who passed away in the name of all of us. If they were already reborn in a place of discomfort, pain, may they be able to release from those painful states, realms. If they were already reborn in a place of comfort, may they be able to improve their life and practice more Dhamma and finally attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Idam me jnati nang hotu sukhita hontu jnate. Idam me jnati nang hotu sukhita hontu jnate. Idam me jnati nang hotu sukhita hontu jnate. May all the good karmas be shared by all the devas, nagas and mahindikas. May they be well and happy, may they protect and bless all of us for good health, quality of life, prosperity and safety. May Deva Naga Mahindika also finally attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Ittavatacha ammehi sambatang punya sampadang sabbe deva anumodantu sabba sampatti siddhya. Ittavatacha ammehi sambatang punya sabbe bhuta anumodantu sabba sampatti siddhya. Ittavatacha ammehi sambatang punya sampadang sabbe satta anumodantu sabba sampatti siddhya. Akasattacha bhummatta deva naga mahintika punyantang anumoditva chirang rakkhang tuloka sasanang. Akasattacha bhummatta deva naga mahintika punyantang anumoditva chirang rakkhang tudesanang. Akasattacha bhummatta deva naga punyantang anumoditva chirang rakkhang tumang paranti chirang rakkhang tutwang sadati. Also, let's make a wish. May we always be in the company of the noble friends, Kalyana Mitras, and not with the Papa Mitras, who may deviate us from the path of our journey, Dhamma journey. Thinking thus, we're going to make a wish. Imina punya kammena mami bada samagamu satang samagamu hontu yavanimbana pantiya. Finally, may all the good karmas that we've been accumulating today be supportive and helpful for all of us to attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Abhivadana silissa niccang vandha pachayino chattaru dhamma vaddhanti ayuvannu sukhang balang ayurarugya sampatti sagga sampatti mevacha ato nibbana sampatti iminati saminjatu. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Wish you a good night and then see you then next Monday, same time.